Hey guys, Eric from Quality Electric in Somersworth, New Hampshire. Today we're going to talk about circuit mapping. Today we're doing the annual service and circuit mapping for one of our VIP customers in Dover, New Hampshire. This customer had a situation where there was some smoke and some electrical burning smells coming from an outlet in her home. She immediately came downstairs to try and turn the power off to that area, and she couldn't figure out what circuit it was because her panel wasn't labeled correctly. This customer is actually a VIP customer, so she's not paying any extra for this service. Along with free circuit mapping, she also gets a ton of other benefits like a front-of-the-line pass, waived dispatch fees, extended material discounts, seasonal specials, and some discounts on other services. There's a bunch of different reasons why it's super important to have your panel labeled accurately. The first is obviously safety, just like this customer who couldn't turn the circuit off. It's a huge safety concern not being able to quickly shut power off to something in your house. It's also a hazard for contractors and other service providers that are working in your home. One of the other reasons it's really important to have an accurately labeled panel is it makes future work more efficient. Your HVAC contractor, your plumber, your electrician, or maybe even a handyman doesn't need to spend time tracing out a circuit, figuring out where it comes from, or even figuring out if you have room in your panel for future upgrades. And last but not least, it's also actually required by the National Electrical Code to have an accurately labeled panel in every home. So if your panel isn't labeled, it's actually a violation. So my personal favorite tool to use to accurately get your panel labeled is to use this tool right here. This is a Tasco Industries circuit mapper. It allows us to identify all the circuits all at once and get your panel labeled as accurately as possible. All right, so now that you know how we're gonna do it, let's get your panel open and get right to it. So anytime we open a customer's panel, the first thing we always want to do is just check it out and make sure everything's safe before we start poking around in it. I like to use a Klein multimeter. This is, we found to be a pretty efficient way to measure voltage and amperage and check continuity on things. So right now we're just checking the voltage coming in from the utility company to make sure everything's the way that it should be and make sure there's no issues there. We always like to go through and check every breaker to make sure that there's no bad breakers, because the last thing we want to have to do is come back and make the customer take more time off of work to let us in to fix a problem that we could have caught the first time we were here. All right, so we checked everything out. Everything looks pretty good in here. There's no immediate concerns that we have to address, so we're going to go ahead and get on with the circuit mapping. We're going to take all of our leads that come with our mapping tool and we're going to clip them all right on. Once we get all the leads clamped onto the circuits, we take our transmitter right here, and on the side it has corresponding circuit numbers. So whichever circuit it's plugged into, it just gets plugged into the corresponding number right on the transmitter. All right, all we have left to do now is to hook up our power leads. This is the part that you should really be contacting a licensed electrician to do because we're clamping this right onto the line side of the utility entrance. Okay, so now we've got our transmitter hooked up and we're ready to go find the circuits. Once we've identified the circuit, we make all our notes right here on a custom panel legend, and we go ahead and write what things are on that circuit, and then we get this all printed out and stuck on the panel. All right, so we just used our circuit mapper to find all the circuits, but every now and then there's some circuits that we can't identify with that, but don't worry, we have a solution for that too. My other favorite tool right here is the Ideal Sure Tracer. This tool can be used to identify circuits. It can only do one circuit at a time though. Instead of being able to do all at once, you have to do one circuit at a time. We also use this tool to find breaks in wires. Sometimes they're underground breaks, sometimes they're in the walls. We can actually trace out underground runs of wire with this tool right here. We're going to get these labels printed out so that they don't have to decipher our handwriting on the panel legend, and they'll always be able to tell what's what. But before we do that, I just want to talk a little bit about why you might not want to do this yourself. Obviously, circuit mapping, something like this, seems pretty simple that anybody could do themselves. And while that's mostly true, anytime that there's a situation where you're opening the panel, there's a lot of inherent hazards that come along with that. We spend a lot of years training how to keep ourselves safe and the home safe, so you should really be hiring an electrician to do something like this for you.